What if she wasn't alone? What if in the fiery maw of the Buster Call, amid the screams of Ohara's collapse, the devil child wasn't just saved, but claimed? Not by a fleeting moment of kindness, but by the unwavering will of the strongest man in the world. This is the story of an impossible reality, the legend of what would have happened if Edward Newgate, Whitebeard himself, had adopted Nico Robin, and in doing so, reshaped the very destiny of the Straw Hat Pirates, preventing the very arcs we know from ever taking shape. Nico Robin was only 8 years old when her world ended. Ohara, the island of knowledge, burned into oblivion. Her mother, Olvia, vanished beneath a rain of fire the world government christened the Buster Call. She was marked, branded, not just as a survivor, but as a living threat. A demon hunted for the unspeakable crime of being born with the ability to read the poneglyphs. And in every history we know, every whispered tale, she ran, alone, terrified, a shadow flitting through the darkest corners of the Grand Line, surviving on scraps of trust and fleeting moments of hope, always ready to betray, always ready to be betrayed. This was the Robin who, years later, would find a desperate, fragile haven with Crocodile before ultimately being saved by a brash, naive pirate captain. But not this time. The currents of destiny, for a single pivotal moment, shifted. Her desperate, solitary flight was mercifully short-lived. The sea lay calm, deceptively serene, as the monstrous silhouette of the Moby Dick sliced through the water, approaching the smoldering ruins of Ohara. Whitebeard's crew, hardened by countless battles, had heard the whispers. A Buster Call, an island erased, and a single improbable detail: a child. An 8-year-old girl, the sole survivor, marked for death. Most pirates, even those with a shred of humanity, would have veered wide, avoiding the government's wrath. The Celestial Dragon's justice was absolute, their reach terrifying. But Edward Newgate wasn't most pirates. He was a force of nature. He was a father to thousands, and his compassion, though often cloaked in gruffness, was as boundless as the sea itself. "Government be damned!" His booming voice echoed across the deck, a growl that promised retribution. "I don't care what grand plans the Five Elders concoct, no child walks away from hell alone, not if I have anything to say about it." His eyes, normally burning with a fierce joy for life, held a rare, somber resolve. He had seen too many children lost. When Robin finally opened her eyes, she wasn't met with the cold glint of a Marine's gun or the wary stares of frightened villagers. She was surrounded by giants. Not monstrous demons, but giants in human form. Marco, with his calm, wise eyes, Thatch, radiating warmth and a culinary curiosity, Jozu, solid and silent, and Ace, a fiery spirit whose rebellious glint mirrored a defiance she'd only dreamt of. She didn't speak for days, not out of fear, though the trauma was immense, but out of sheer, overwhelming disbelief. A silence born from the impossibility of it all. No one had ever protected her. Not truly, not without a price, a demand, a looming threat. This was a stark contrast to the Nico Robin who would spend 2 decades on the run, joining treacherous organizations, always one step from capture, her trust eroded. That Robin would only truly open her heart after being saved by a crew of pirates who defied the world itself. But here, on the Moby Dick, no one had ever simply given her safety, and certainly no one had ever said the words that shattered her isolated mind, melting the icy walls around her heart. "You're safe now, daughter." Whitebeard's voice was a low rumble, a gentle tremor that resonated deep within her. "You are family, and family we protect." He never saw her as a weapon. He didn't care about the whispers of the poneglyphs or the world-shaking knowledge she carried. He saw a girl with eyes too old for her years, brimming with unquantifiable pain, and he made her part of his family. He gave her a berth, a place at his table, and the fierce, unwavering loyalty of his sons. And for the first time since she'd lost everything, since the world had declared her an abomination, Nico Robin truly smiled. A fragile, hesitant blossom in a hardened world, nurtured by the unwavering love of the Whitebeard pirates. Robin grew up on the Moby Dick, not in fear, but in freedom. She was no longer a shadow, but an integral part of the chaotic, loving family. She wasn't a brawler like Ace or a healer like Marco, but she was dangerous in a way that the Marines couldn't comprehend. She was the mind behind the muscle. She absorbed information like a sponge, her prodigious intellect flowering under Whitebeard's unyielding protection. She could see history. She could unravel secrets, and Whitebeard, far from fearing this power, encouraged it with fierce pride. "She'll know the truth," he declared, his booming laughter shaking the deck, "and we'll protect her until the day she's ready to tell the world herself. Try to touch her, and you face the wrath of the Whitebeard pirates." The Marines watched, helpless and enraged, as their greatest fear grew stronger, nurtured by the very man they couldn't defeat. The girl they wanted to erase became untouchable. Any bounty hunter foolish enough to track her vanished. Their ships found adrift and empty. Whenever Cypher Pole made a clandestine move, the Whitebeard pirates made them disappear, their agents swallowed by the sea. She was no longer a fugitive. She was Edward Newgate's daughter, and the world learned, often brutally, that touching one of Whitebeard's children meant invoking the fury of a Yonko. This single divergence sends a tidal wave through the Grand Line, irrevocably altering the Straw Hat's journey. Without Robin on the run, there's no need for her to seek the protection of Sir Crocodile. Baroque Works, as we know it, never recruits Nico Robin. She never becomes Miss All Sunday, never forms that desperate pragmatic alliance with the Warlord. The intricate plot to seize Alabasta, the search for Pluton, would have proceeded differently, if at all. What happens to Alabasta without the Straw Hat's intervention, guided by Robin's intel? Crocodile's plan, though ultimately foiled by Luffy in the original timeline, might have gone unchecked for much longer, or been met by a less coordinated and, perhaps, ultimately unsuccessful Marine intervention. Vivi's desperate plea for help might have fallen on deaf ears, or arrived too late. The Straw Hats, without the Demon Child to save their path, inadvertently guided by her prior knowledge, may never even arrive in Alabasta. Their adventures would surely lead them elsewhere, perhaps to different islands, different allies, and different enemies. Crucially, Luffy wouldn't save Robin, and thus she would never join the crew. This leaves a crucial gap in their numbers and skills, and their journey onward would be missing an archaeologist, a key strategic mind, and a vital emotional anchor. And if Alabasta unfolds without them, or without Robin, what of Water 7 and Ennis Lobby? The entire arc dedicated to Robin's past, her deep-seated desire to die, and the Straw Hats' defiant declaration of war against the world government, "I want to live," simply wouldn't happen. There would be no betrayal, no desperate pursuit, no Frankie family, no CP9 showdown for her rescue. This means the Straw Hats never experienced this crucible of defiance. Their bond, while strong, wouldn't be forged in the same fire of challenging the entire world for one of their own. This critical emotional and thematic development would be absent. Frankie might never join the Straw Hats, or he might do so under completely different circumstances, altering the crew's dynamic and future ship. The poignant farewell to the Going Merry, necessitated by the damage sustained at Ennis Lobby, also wouldn't happen. The Straw Hats might cling to the Mary longer, possibly leading to different, perhaps more dangerous ship-related problems down the line, or simply acquiring the Thousand Sunny in a different context. The ripple effect would continue through every subsequent arc. The Straw Hats might still land on Thriller Bark, but Robin's historical knowledge was useful here, particularly with the mysteries of Moria and Oars. Her absence means a less efficient resolution, perhaps even different outcomes for some of the crew. The events leading to their separation by Kuma would largely remain the same, as it was part of a larger plan by the revolutionaries. However, the Straw Hats, having endured less intense direct conflict with the world government's elite, no CP9 showdown, might be slightly less prepared for the intensity of the Shibondi events. Luffy's journey into Impel Down and subsequently to Marineford was primarily driven by Ace's impending execution. His motivation would remain intact, however, the path would be different. While Jinbei and Ivankov would still be there, the crucial dynamic with Crocodile, who helps Luffy because Robin isn't there as his partner and he has his own agenda, might be altered. Crocodile's original defeat by Luffy, which led to his Impel Down imprisonment, occurred in Alabasta with Robin's involvement. If Alabasta was different, Crocodile's fate might also be different, potentially changing the Impel Down breakout. Yes, Luffy would still be determined to reach Marineford. He would likely be there, but the Straw Hat presence would feel less unified. They wouldn't have the Enos Lobby experience behind them, which forged them into the resilient crew they became. And critically, Robin would be on the Whitebeard side, an ally of Ace, but still a stranger or respected figure to Luffy. This would be a profound and potentially awkward dynamic for Luffy, seeing someone he would have befriended fighting for his brother, but not with him. Years passed, each one forging Robin into a woman of quiet strength and profound conviction. The world still moved towards its inevitable clash. Ace, ever impulsive, still pursued Blackbeard, and the great cataclysmic battle of Marineford still came. The stage was set, the execution scheduled. But this time, everything was different. Robin was there, not a desperate hiding figure in the shadows, but a proud member of the Whitebeard family, her spirit unbowed, her resolve unbreakable. She stood tall beside her father, her silhouette against the burning skyline a testament to defiance. In the war that shook the seas, Robin wasn't just a scholar, she was the silent strategist. With her expanded knowledge and access to Whitebeard's vast intelligence network, she deciphered the true location of the ancient weapons, the very tools the world government feared most. But she never used them, because Whitebeard had taught her, power means nothing, daughter, without people to protect, without family to cherish. She was the calm in the storm, the quiet mind behind the earth-shaking muscle, and when Ace screamed in pain at the execution platform, a sound that would have shattered Luffy's world, it wasn't just Luffy who charged first. It was Robin. Her devil fruit, honed through years of practical application and strategic thinking, blossomed. Pillars of colossal hands erupted from the ground, shielding her brothers, diverting cannon fire. She cracked the platform with seismic precision, not to destroy, but to create a path, a diversion. She didn't fight to destroy. She fought to keep her family together, to tear apart the stage of her brother's execution. And for a fleeting moment, even the admirals hesitated, witnessing the fury of a woman who had found her purpose, her family, and her strength. The Straw Hats, having made their way to Marineford to save Ace, witnessed this spectacle. Luffy is still driven by his love for Ace, but the familiar face of Nico Robin fighting with such power and conviction alongside Whitebeard is a jarring sight. Their dynamic with her is entirely different. She's not their vulnerable, rescued crewmate, but a formidable, established force. They see her strength, her dedication, and the power she wields under Whitebeard's banner. Their respect, perhaps even awe, for her would be born not from saving her, but from witnessing her might and commitment to a different family. The world changed after Marineford, profoundly. Whitebeard still fell. His final, thunderous words still rang across the seas, echoing in every corner of the globe. The One Piece is real. But this time, it wasn't just a legend, a whispered dream for pirates, because standing at his grave amidst the solemn, grieving faces of his family, Robin finally told the truth, the full truth, of the Void Century, of Joy Boy, of the Will of D. She presented her findings, meticulously gathered, carefully protected, a historical record that exposed the world government's tyrannical foundation for all to see. And the world shook again. Not from a war of fists, but a war of information, a war for the truth. But she wasn't hunted. She wasn't alone. The remaining Whitebeard pirates, their loyalty unwavering, stood behind her, an unyielding wall against any who dared challenge her. The Revolutionary Army, inspired by her courage and the weight of her revelations, gained unprecedented momentum. And for the first time in centuries, knowledge, protected by power, won. The veil of ignorance was ripped away and the people of the world were given a choice: continue to be lied to, or fight for a future built on truth. For the Straw Hats, this revelation changes everything. Without Robin, they might still be searching for a means to decipher the poneglyphs, possibly even seeking out the Devil Child of lore, only to find she is a protected Yonko commander. Luffy's dream of being Pirate King would still exist, but his path to Laugh Tale becomes far more arduous, perhaps requiring him to forge uneasy alliances or develop new, unforeseen methods of uncovering history. The emotional core of their crew is fundamentally different. The bond forged through saving Robin at Enies Lobby, which defined their commitment to challenging the world government, wouldn't exist. Instead, their resolve might stem from the sheer, undeniable truth Robin just broadcast to the world, pushing them to seek the One Piece not just for adventure, but as a path to true freedom and the full truth. Consider the post-timeskip arcs without their archaeologist. Robin's ability to read the poneglyphs here was paramount to understanding Joy Boy's message and the prophecy. Without her, the Straw Hats would leave Fishman Island with an incomplete picture of its history and its connection to the ancient weapons. The stakes of the prophecy would be lost on them. Robin's quiet intelligence, her ability to blend in, and her historical insights were crucial. The alliance with Law, while still possible, would be fundamentally different. Law's access to the road poneglyphs and his historical inquiries would be significantly hampered without Robin. This changes the very trajectory of the Alliance aiming for Laugh Tale. The core reason for this arc was to obtain a copy of Big Mom's road poneglyphs. Without Robin, the Straw Hats would have no one to read it even if they got it. This arc would need to be fundamentally reconceived or would not be about the poneglyph at all. Luffy's motivation would likely shift purely to retrieving Sanji, but the overarching goal of Pirate King, requiring poneglyph understanding, would hit a dead end here. Robin's role in Wano was absolutely critical for uncovering the Kozuki clan's history, their connection to the poneglyphs, and the true meaning of Wano's borders. Without her, the Straw Hats and their allies would likely defeat Kaido, but the deep historical revelations would be missed. They might leave Wano unaware of its full significance to the One Piece. Wano also holds another road poneglyph. Without Robin, it would remain an unreadable mystery, further hindering their path. This arc centers on Dr. Vegapunk's knowledge and the truth of the Void Century. Robin's presence as a scholar and a survivor of Ohara is paramount to understanding and interacting with Vegapunk. Without her, much of Vegapunk's critical information about the ancient kingdom, the Void Century, and the true nature of devil fruits might be delivered to an unprepared or less receptive Straw Hat audience. The emotional weight of these revelations for Robin specifically would be completely absent. The very premise of needing an archaeologist with her background would be lost. Robin never called herself a revolutionary. She disdained the title of weapon. But she changed the world more than any sword ever could. More than any devil fruit power designed for destruction. She became the catalyst for a new era. One where history wasn't just forgotten, but confronted. Because Whitebeard didn't raise a weapon. He didn't forge an instrument of war. He raised a woman with the profound power to rewrite history, not by force, but by truth. And in a world where strength is everything, she became the strongest daughter. Her legacy, not of destruction, but of illumination. And the Straw Hat Pirates, in this divergent timeline, continue their legendary journey. Their path to becoming the Pirate King's crew would be infinitely more challenging and likely fundamentally different without their archaeologist. Finding Laughtail requires reading the road poneglyphs. Without Robin, they would need to either find another Oharan survivor, an almost impossible task, recruit another obscure scholar, or ally with someone else who can read them. A highly unlikely and politically complex scenario. Their legend would be forged differently. Their bonds shaped by other trials. Their very definitions as the Pirate King's crew redefined by a world where the truth came to light not through their intervention, but through the unwavering protection of a different family. It's a world where the search for the One Piece isn't just about adventure, but about building upon the foundations of truth that Robin, Whitebeard's daughter, so boldly laid bare. Their path is harder, less defined, but perhaps ultimately leads them to an even greater, more independent understanding of the world's secrets. Or perhaps their journey ends before Laughtail, forever in search of the missing pieces of history only Nico Robin could read. Would the world have survived, or merely evolved, if Edward Newgate, Whitebeard, had found Nico Robin in the ashes of Ohara? A simple twist of fate, an unimaginable shift in the currents of destiny, leading to a new age of truth. And how would your favorite pirates, the Straw Hats, navigate such a fundamentally altered Grand Line, without the woman who became their guide to the world's hidden past? Let us know your thoughts, your theories, and your own alternate timelines in the comments below. What other characters' fates would change in this reality? And if you want more alternate One Piece timelines, more deep dives into the lore, and more explorations of the grand possibilities of this incredible world, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell before Buster Call comes for your knowledge. And I'll catch you next time.